Right, in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about Nabra Hassanen. Some of you may have heard about this case. It took place in Reston, Virginia, in America. Now, the reason why I'm actually telling this story is I can't relate to all of the stories I tell you, but this one took place in Virginia. When I first came to America, I lived and still do live in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. In fact, I lived in Reston. I know Reston very well. I know all the people in Reston. Well, not all of them, but you know what I mean. And the surrounding area. Now, also, Nabra herself, she was 17 at the time. She was Muslim and she was observing the month of Ramadan where, people fast. I'm obviously not 17. I am Muslim though, and I do observe that month where, we fast and stuff. So the question remains, why was a 17-year-old out at 4 a.m. on a random day, right? Like if I have a 17-year-old kid, I don't care what anyone says, you get your ass at home. You're not staying out till 4 a.m. You have no place and no business being out at that time. So the question remains, why is she there? And because of my background that can relate to her background, I can explain to you all of this in great detail. So we start on June the 18th, 2017. Nabra was out with 15 of her friends. Now, this is the bit that I find interesting because I don't like being in big groups. I hate being in big groups. If I'm out with my friends, five, six max. Right? I hang out with the boys every Saturday. Right? And if there's more than 7 people, like mate, it's just too many people in one setting. That's just how I am. But imagine 15 all my days. So normally what Muslims in general, what they do is the fast starts from sunrise. So let's just say sunrise in this case is at 5 a.m., right? During this month, a lot of Muslims, by 4 a.m., they'll either wake up or if they're awake anyway, they'll have a meal, wherever it may be, right? Eggs and toast, I don't know, rice or whatever leftovers or whatever they have, right? But anyway, they have a meal and then they all go to bed. Or they pray and then they go to bed. And then they wake up and they carry on with the day while fasting. Now, what a lot of people do, especially on the weekends, is they'll stay awake deliberately till 4 a.m. We'll go eat together, maybe at a silver diner or whatever diner, right? And then, go home, go to bed, and carry on with our day. So imagine the same thinking, but Nabra is with her friends. And what younger kids generally tend to do, the teenagers, is they'll be at their local mosque. And a lot of the mosques, particularly the one in Reston, Virginia, it has like basketball court and facilities where kids or young teenagers can play games. So what kids generally tend to do is they'll be at the mosque during this month, not all day, of course, just for a couple of hours. Then they'll go get food, and then they'll go back to the mosque, pray, and then go home. So on June 18th, 2017, Nabra is with her friends, and they will go to a McDonald's, and the McDonald's is probably a 5 to 10 minute bike ride from the mosque, right? In fact, the irony is I've actually been to this McDonald's many times. So for me, I'm actually imagining this scenario probably in a bit more detail because I've actually been to the location itself. She's with her friends, and then for some reason there's someone in the car who I think he drove past one of them, or maybe one of them maybe he nearly accidentally ran over one of them. Either way, these 15 people and this one guy in a car get into a scuffle. Now the guy in the car was called Darwin Martinez Torres, but for the sake of this video, I'll just call him Martin, right? He's in the car. For some reason, he loses it in his head and he chases after them. And he starts going after Nabra. He runs after Nabra. Some of them end up running back to the mosque. Some of them end up running home. And in the case of Nabra, he chases after her, grabs her, put her in his car. He then sexually assaults her. He beats her with a baseball bat. Then he drops her off in a pond. In terms of the actual crime itself, that's literally what happened. And there isn't much more details on that. I did contact the Fairfax police because, I live nearby. And I did ask for the interrogation tapes, but they literally gave me the middle finger and said, mate, you're not important enough. We're not going to give it to you. And with all due respect, I agree with them. Haha. The next morning, sorry. So at that time, now we're talking around 4 or 5 a.m. that same night. Now, what tends to happen in a tight-knit community like this, which I am a member of, like the Muslim community in Northern Virginia, again, outside of DC where I am, everybody knows everyone. Literally everybody knows everyone, right? It's a small world because they all went to the same schools and they all end up going to the same college. And those that ended up going to out of state college always ended up coming back home. right? It's a very tight knit community because Fairfax and Loudon and these places are just fantastic places to live. And I think what must have happened here is some of the kids must have ran back to the mosque and said, something's happened, something's happened, something's happened, there's this guy, etc. Then the other people who ran elsewhere would have gone home and said, oh my God, this happened, oh my God, this happened. By this happened, I'm talking about some guy was there and we got scared or whatever, right? So by this point, within a half an hour or an hour after the event, other parents would have found out something's happened, right? Where Nabra's parents get even further alerted is the fact that at this point, their daughter didn't come home. They go to the mosque, she's not there. They call other people, we don't know where she is. Right? We ran away, we don't know where she went. So, and I remember at that time, I was living nearby in Sterling, Virginia. So where I used to live was maybe 5-10 minutes away from where this actually took place. And I know that a lot of my roommates were all at that mosque that night. I wasn't, because I'm a deviant. So when Nabra did not come home, her parents, as you would, notified the police, and the police then searched the area. So they go to the McDonald's, they check the CCTV footage, but at this point, I had no idea what was going on. So they eventually, the next day, around 3 p.m., in a pond, they find the body, right? And then unfortunately, they confirm to the parents, unfortunately, your daughter is dead. Now, I'll come on to the cultural impact in a second. But randomly, another set of police were driving around. And you know how when you're driving and police always have someone pulled over? Well, they saw someone driving suspiciously and they pulled someone over, and it was Martin. And at this point, they didn't know who Martin was. But upon further deliberation, and when they take him back to the police station, they recognize his car, his number plate, etc. They now linking him to this crime. And when they questioned him, he confessed straight away. To give you some more information about Martin, I'm reading the newspaper article now that they made of him. He was an illegal immigrant. He was 22 years old. He was from El Salvador. Now, the U.S. Immigration and Customs Office didn't find him or do anything with him prior to this, simply because he wasn't on their radar. What's key, though, is it was reported a week or so before this event, there was a woman in hospital who was getting treated for choking, and she had been punched and she was sexually assaulted, and it was claimed that Martin did this. Now, I don't know if it's someone he knew, but either way, it seems he had previous, right? To which he would have eventually got caught, I guess. When they did a psychological report, a psych report on Martin, when he was arrested, they said he's likely to be intellectually disabled, and further evaluations should be held to determine whether he had mental capacity to face the death penalty, because that was the conversation: should this guy face death? And when that motion was filed, a psychiatrist confirmed that he had significant cognitive limitations, poor memory, severely impaired judgment, and he had functional illiteracy. I'm going to come on to that in a second, or towards the end of this. Either way, he pled guilty to rape and murder in November 2018, and then he got a plea deal where he was sentenced to life without parole, and this plea deal ensured he would escape the death penalty. Now, in terms of the impact on the community, and again, this is why I made the video. As Muslims, right, we live in a world where a lot of them feel like they're being attacked and accused every single day, right? You got terrorism in the Middle East, you got terrorist attacks that happen in the Western world. People always blame Muslims. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? And I'm a Muslim myself, and I hear what other Muslims say. I have a different view on this, but that's not the point of this podcast. But the reason why I bring that up is because when now a Muslim is attacked, they automatically assume this is a hate crime. But no, this was not a hate crime. This wasn't like a hate crime is when you target someone specifically for a specific reason on what they believe or the color of their skin or whatever. Darwin didn't attack Nabra because she's Muslim. Martin, didn't attack Nabra because she had the headscarf on. He attacked her because she was the only one there, and probably because she was a female, hence the sexual assault, right? So at the mosque they held a prayer and all that stuff. When someone dies in the Islamic faith, you have to have the funeral within 3 days. That's a must. It's a mandatory requirement. It's a big, big, big thing. And during that, people gave speeches, and they said that this is another example of an innocent victim being killed due to Islamophobia and all that stuff. And again, I don't think this was a hate crime, but it gives you an indication of how it affected the community, right? And in places like DC, Washington DC, Central DC, and other places in the Western, they held vigils and memorials and all that stuff in her name to further confirm the impact. Right, June 18th is when this event took place. So by June 21st, you had the funeral. As I said, it's got to be done within 3 days. Right, there were 5,000 people that attended the funeral, and that's only because like they ran out of space. Right, there was huge traffic jams. There were Muslims, Christians, and Jews, a lot of them at this event. The purpose for me, though, is I've been trying to figure out why did Martin do this, all right? And I want to go back to the cognitive limitations. When you're driving, right, you demonstrate some kind of functionality. And there is something about your hand eye coordination which the government suggests is of good uh, health, if that's even the right way to put it. To drive, you require a driver's license. And of course, that's all regulated by the government, even though we all know the DMV is a piece of shit, but that's a different discussion. So I reject this notion of cognitive disabilities and what do you call it? Impaired judgment. Like you can be intellectually disabled, that's fine. I can name you 100 people who are intellectually disabled that I know, but cognitive limitations, poor memory, and functional illiteracy, as they put it, is not a reason why you kill someone. Obviously, I couldn't get a hold of the interrogation tapes because the Fairfax County Police were not willing to help me out, which is okay. That's fine. But in terms of his life, the only thing I can think is that one, I did learn he was a member of the gang MS-13, and maybe violence and crime, or maybe he's used to it. For example, let me paint the idea in your head, right? When you're a member of MS-13, that's no joke. These guys are the real deal, right? Like these guys will kill you if you mess with them. So if you look at Martin's like if he's part of this gang, right? As human beings, we all want to be a part of something, right? We all want to be part of a group, whether it be society or whether it be a sports team that you follow, or we all want to be part of some tribe, right? Let's use the word tribe. It makes more sense. MS-13 is a tribe. The New England Patriots is a tribe, right? The Republicans are a tribe. The Democrats are a tribe. And you've seen with all tribes, they're very polarizing, right? Some more important than others, of course. So, first of all, I question why Martin wanted to be part of MS-13. Maybe it was because he had no other alternative. Maybe it's because MS-13 are an El Salvadorian gang, and given that he is from El Salvador, he can relate to them a bit more, which makes sense. But the need for him to be a part of something that he knows is inherently violent gives an indication into the anger and the frustration he has in his own life. If I, right now, upped and walked and joined, I don't know, a gang, right? Let's just say I was to join MS-13, for example, right? They wouldn't accept me and I wouldn't apply. And, it'd be interesting to see what the application process is. Is there a credit check? Who knows? But if I was to go and apply for them, or they don't have application process, what am I saying? If I was to try and go and join them, right, I would only do it if I'm angry and unhappy with my life and I want to take it out in other people, because again, they're a violent gang. My guess is Martin hated his life, had to work like a dog. Uh, I believe he was a cleaner or a farm, or I don't know. But obviously, he had to work illegally, so he's got to be under the table, right? When you do that over and over again, now you imagine he's 22 years old too, right? When I was 22, I was in England. I had my own car. I could do whatever I want. I could dress however I want. I can go out as much as I want. I had a job and I could live, right? I was still living with my parents. But when you're an illegal immigrant, you're of Hispanic descent, you're 22 years old, you don't have any family here. From what I read, his English wasn't the best, right? And him being Hispanic in also being an illegal immigrant doesn't help his cause when he's trying to, find work, right? This isn't a blight on Hispanic people. I'm just saying it's the same for Pakistanis and Indians or whoever. If you're an illegal immigrant, you are severely disadvantaged. And if you compare 22-year-old him to 22-year-old me, I'm chilling, mate. I'm laughing. I'm having a great life while he has to work like a dog for peanuts. So he's probably pissed off. And when he was driving, Like you know how gang culture is, right? If somebody gives you like if somebody steps up to you, right? If somebody says something to you aggressively, if somebody stands up to you, if somebody looks at you the wrong way, you're supposed to retaliate because you're supposed to defend your own honor. Stupid, but it is what it is. So I think when these kids um pissed him off or whatever, he wanted to get revenge, but it shows how weak he is that he had to go after young teenagers, right? Um, and again, sexually gratifying he finds to assault women if the story is true that a week before he did the same. So my the only conclusion I can come to in regards to his motive is ego, gratification, stupidity, of course, and literally having no purpose. And that's one thing I want to say: purpose. Some people have no purpose and they have no place. I've been through moments in life where I felt like I've had no purpose. Not anything bad, right? Not in a sense that where I want to give up or I'm severely depressed, but I've gone through moments where I've thought, what am I doing? What is the point of my existence, right? You can call it an existential crisis, right? I call it just being bored. And it's probably one of the reasons why I went off to Canada and then came to America and all that kind of stuff, because I wanted to figure out, look, what was the point of all this, right? I don't mean point in terms of what is the point of life. I believe in God and all that stuff. I'm talking about, like, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to pay bills my whole life. I don't want to stay in the same place my whole life. Have you been to Slough and Ingle, it's a piece of shit. you know I don't want to see the same faces my whole life. I want to see the world. I want to see the different cultures and all that kind of stuff. And I, like, when I come to America and you guys don't put mayonnaise on your fries, right? Or when I come to America and you guys drive on the other side of the road, or like in England, mate, you wanna drive a car? You gotta get driving lessons, at least 30 of them. You gotta wait a week to get your driving license through the mail. Then you gotta wait another week to do your written test, as you call it in America. They call it theory test in England. And if you're lucky, mate, in America you can go to the DMV on the same day and get your driving license, right? Wham bam, thank you, Cam. So the cultural differences for me are fascinating. Nobody's right or wrong. It's great to see. And I don't know if I've found my purpose, but I've definitely found my place. Do you know what I mean? And that is a big step in life. And I don't think when it comes to Martin, he found any of that. And he probably didn't see a way out. And maybe through some sick, twisted logic, maybe he thought, you know what, jail is better for me. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to work like a dog. I am already into gang culture, so I'll be able to handle myself in there. I get my 3 meals. I'll get a bed every day. I don't need to worry about rent, jazz, all that stuff, right? So again, I don't know if this is true. I'm just assuming what could be true. And in terms of Nabra herself, innocent young victim, irrespective of her religion, irrespective of her race or creed or whatever, no 17-year-old deserves this to happen to them. So I hope she's resting in peace. I don't know the family directly, but I do know a lot of people that do know the family. And in the Islamic culture, the notion is that to God we belong and to God we will return. In Islam, you have a 3 day mourning period. So someone dies, right? You gotta bury them within 3 days, and then after that 3 days, you have 3 days to mourn them, and then you have to move on. Obviously, that's not strict or rigid, but it's general guidelines, and it's the reason why it's so quick. Some of you may think is because we all know this is going to happen at some point, right? This is God's plan. Again, if you don't believe in God, that's okay. I'm just trying to give you the mentality of the people, right? It's God's plan. This is what He decreed. So don't question it. Just accept it. Feel the emotions. Feel what you need to feel, and you won't get over it, but you will get used to it and just trust God. But even to this day, sometimes when I see friends who I haven't seen in a while, um, randomly in conversation, we'll be like, "Yo, remember that time what happened to Nabra? Or remember that time when there was that person that died?" And this story in the Northern Virginia community will live in infamy. So I hope you find this interesting. Sorry if I babbled, and sorry if my words were a bit slurred. I do speak like a donkey, as I know. But yeah, thank you for listening.